I think that the experiences of leadership slash mentorship that Crescent offers, especially with that unique focus on character and on introspection, I think that gave me a lifelong, kind of piece of myself that wanted to understand myself better and better.
I'm Glenn Herbert, and I'm an editor with Our Kids. We're speaking with insiders from Canada's leading private schools to gain insights into their programs, culture, traditions, and leadership. This includes insights from parents, alumni, and administrators. This is the Our Kids Insider Perspective.
I would definitely say the community, and to be very specific, the community within the grade. It's my 5-year reunion since graduating Crescent just a few months ago. And my grade had a reunion, and we had about, I'd say, half the grade on a Zoom call, which is a big ask. Every people on Zoom calls are a little tired of those nowadays, but half the grade out there. And we had breakout rooms where we would just have 4 or 5 of us catching up for minutes at a time. And it was so energizing to see people maybe not face to face, but face to screen, and noticing how surprisingly very little people had changed. Like, people are still who they are, but also just how strong the almost, I want to say, affection is. Like, to see someone you haven't seen in 5 years and being like, wow, I have a deep interest in what you're doing with your life. That kind of community, the grade is filled with those relationships. And that's why so many people came out, is because it's just strong, such a strong sense of, wow, I'm excited to see these people. I'm excited to be reminded of this amazing culture that I was a part of when I was in high school. I would say Crescent is probably differentiated in how it prioritizes character. I know that it is the tagline, and so it's pretty front and center in everything that they do. But I think it's very different to read that from the outside in and say, oh, character is a priority, than being on the ground and realizing that character is actually imbued in everything they do. Like, I really feel that there were so many opportunities that were focused on building out my personal character. Like, who would I be? Who who would I interact with across different grades that shaped who I would be? There's so many opportunities for things like that, and getting involved in all these extracurriculars. I think that really just gives any student the opportunity to find themselves. I think that's a big goal coming out of high school. The number one goal is obviously, where do you want to go after high school? But to answer that in any meaningful way, you need to know who you are, and you need to know what your priorities are. And I really think that through activities like Bear Week, which is kind of like a yearly start of the school year trip that Crescent does with all grades, you are put in all these organic environments where you slowly, piece by piece, get glimpses of who you think you want to be. And by the end, you have a much better idea. And I remember feeling very confident about just my path ahead of me when I was leaving Crescent. Opportunity, or for saying this as a person, opportunistic. I would say another one is sincere or authentic. I like authentic better than sincere. And I think another one would be, I'm trying not to use character. I think another word would be, we have authentic, we have opportunistic. I think positivity. I just remember every day feeling very positive in those walls, whether that was, down to having to study for tests, which is not always feeling optimistic, but you're surrounded by these people who are like, we'll get through this together. Those feelings stick with you, and that's an important feeling to have going into university, is just optimism. Yeah, totally. I think opportunistic, because there's just so much packed within the Crescent community, so many different niches that you can find yourself in. There were people who were interested in music and catching it with my grade. They're now starting a music production company. There's people who are interested in fine arts in a very real way, and they're posting amazing drawings that they do to this day. There's people who are interested in sports, went down to the US on sports scholarships. It's just people found a place for themselves, and you have all this abundant opportunity within the 4 years of high school. For me, just 4 years, but some people go for the full 10. I think that that's why I say opportunistic. It just kind of felt like a playground where you could pick and choose what you wanted and safely try things and say, you know what, I think that I'm going to put that back on the shelf. I remember I tried, so many different things, like from sports to being part of the robotics team. It was very widespread. I think authentic really came from my takeaway from all the interpersonal interactions I had, whether that's a teacher who is incredibly genuinely interested in your well-being as a student and as a, not just academically, but like your mental health. There's a very big mental health focus on Crescent, which I think is only more important nowadays. I think that authentic also came from the relationships that I feel I still have. Those are real relationships. It's a pretty impressive thing to come back to a whole grade of around 100 people at the end of 5 years and still feel like there's some authenticity to every person that you interact with. So that meant a lot to me. And I think that's probably why I was the first one. Actually, it was the second one. Well, I think authenticity was one of the, is like a cornerstone for me. It just feels very real. It feels like people are very much themselves and very comfortable. I would say a combination of kindness and respect. I think those two go hand in hand. I think that perhaps kindness is like a mother trait to respect, because when you really have this emanating sense of kindness to people around you, respect kind of follows, and you respect people for who they are. You respect them for their unique value add in different situations, whether that's the value they put on the sports field or the value they put in the classroom or out to the classroom helping their friends learn. So I think people were very kind. And I just look back and I think that has led to these authentic relationships where like, wow, I have nothing but goodness to feel about the people that I was in Crescent with. I think that, again, character, kind of throwing back to one of my earlier answers, is kind of imbued very bottom up within the school. I think that when you read the brochures, the pamphlets, your hope is, how is this, the question you ask yourself is, how is this not top down? Like, how are we not just telling people that they're going to be men of character by the end of their time at Crescent and, just hoping that that sticks with them. But really, it's there from the very beginning. And there's a good example is Crescent really emphasizes just this mentorship. And I think that something interesting about mentorship, which occurs in a variety of ways. As a grade 12, you can choose to be a mentor to grade 9s in meaningful ways. You can also mentor like lower years, like lower school and middle school. And when you're asked to be a mentor, I remember I think about half or a third of my grade was involved in some form of this mentorship. You very naturally have to ask the question, well, what am I mentoring for? Or what kind of mentor do I want to be? And that introspection goes a really long way throughout your entire life. And to have people thinking about themselves and who they want to be, or what impression they want to give on someone who's younger that they're trying to lead on the good path, they very naturally find good answers for themselves. And so that is a good example, I'd say, of how character is very bottom up, actually, and very in the community from the beginning, and not just on brochures and painted on walls. I think that they would be surprised by the energy in the halls. I haven't been back in some time, but I just always remember, packs of boys walking down the halls, going to the next class. And you'd kind of think that it would be people walking, going to math class, maybe not so excited, but there's just so much energy going on in the halls. And especially even the backdrop of school, like the same hallways that you are walking between classes to and from, those are the same hallways that you're doing kind of exciting activities, like when they have house day. So it's almost like the very place is filled with energy. And I just remember very positive energy, and that being surprising actually when I was touring as a grade 8, because I was like, wow, there's so many people and they're all talking and laughing in the halls. So I'd say it was the energy. I think that the experiences of leadership slash mentorship that Crescent offers, especially with that unique focus on character and on introspection, I think that gave me a lifelong, kind of piece of myself that wanted to understand myself better and better. And I feel that when I was going in university, a lot of the extracurriculars that I was in part of, I was in those with a very specific goal in mind, which was, does this stick or does this go away? Do I feel like some special spark with all these things that I'm a part of, which started for me at Crescent, started for me with my first taste of leadership and understanding that something about that role and that mindset really appealed to me. And so throughout university and into my role now, it really does help to have that that part of my personality that is very interested in understanding more and more about myself, kind of getting closer to my personal truth. And so I feel that very much started at Crescent. It was kind of an awakening at Crescent that then lasts throughout your whole life. And I see a lot of people get that at university. It was really useful to go into university with that feeling already, because university is, again, a place of much opportunity to find yourself. I think that the first answer that came to mind, which is a non-answer, so I'll give a real answer, is, I wish that some of the teachers would hang around long enough. A lot of the teachers that I was in Crescent with, they've retired. It is unfortunate, but they were incredibly positive, mentors in the community and great influences on everyone. So that's the non-answer. That's me taking the easy way out, which I won't do. I think if I had to change one thing about Crescent, yeah, so I'd say one thing that I think Crescent could improve is, I very much remember in grade 12, they have this amazing Bear Week. So those trips they do at the beginning of each year. With grade 12s, it's very unique. It's very focused on how you as the grade are going to come together to lead the school. And after that trip with this entire grade, we all left with almost a stronger sense of unity. And I would say that that's something that you could do at many checkpoints throughout your school experience. As people are just entering middle school, coming from lower to middle school, as people are just entering high school as grade 9s, those are very great checkpoints to put across the entire journey, to have kids and grades introspect on what they want their impact to be and what they want their culture to be. I think I definitely look back and I have increasing levels of gratitude as I realize these, the structure that Crescent had, and the people, specifically the teachers and administrators, the way they tried to lead the school. I think that there was a lot of wisdom in that you don't recognize when you're a student. You don't understand some of the rules that are there, but really they end up being very influential. And you can retrospectively, when you're much older, look back and say, I'm glad I had that. I'm glad I was kind of raised with those values. Yeah, there's a lot more wisdom just in the structure of the school, which when you're in the middle of it, you don't quite attribute the rules to any sort of meaning, but it's all there, and there's just some master plan that you don't have access to just yet. Yeah, I think the first would definitely be the community. I think the environment that you can be in as a young boy in Crescent is just absolutely ideal in terms of the opportunities, the ability to find yourself, the ability to create meaningful relationships that really give back to you in big ways. A lot of my strongest friendships to date are friendships I had from Crescent. I think that would be one. That'd be community. I think another one would be, I think challenge. I think it's a very healthy amount of challenge. I think that's what you're looking for as both a young boy and as a parent, is you want your child to be brought up in an environment that is going to test them in a lot of different ways, not just academically, but also personally and socially. You're going to need to find yourself, and that challenge is going to result in the outcome of you having a much better opinion of what you should be doing with your life and who you are and where you should be going. So healthy amount of challenge. We have the community. And I'd say the last one would probably be, I think like kind of a back to that optimism is, it's really just a very a happy place. Like I feel a lot of meaning when I think back on my memories from Crescent, and that's another important kind of aspect of your life you want to walk away from high school with, is you want to look back and say, wow, I'm really glad I did that. I really look back on that time as formational to who I am, and that I am being given every chance to be a happy, healthy person going forward. Because the truth is, in university, it does get harder and there's a lot more challenges. And having a foundation of strong relationships, a somewhat stable sense of who you are and who you want to be, that pays huge dividends when you go out to university. I would say, you should go to the school. You should speak more with the administrators. You should speak with the students. I think that when you do that, you'll find that people are very intentional about why they're at Crescent, and people have chosen their reasons, and maybe within the reasons of the boy you talk to in the hall or the administrator and what they try to do for the students, you'll map some of your own reasons to that. And I remember that was incredibly influential when I was deciding to go to Crescent, was just those, high bandwidth conversations with a student or a teacher, where you really can feel all the traits that I've been talking about just compressed through that conversation. I think my advice would be, take risks. This is a really safe environment in which you can test out your understanding of yourself. You can try to make friends, do new things, expand the scope of your perspective, especially in doing that in grade 9 or whatever grade you come in. I think that take advantage of these opportunities. You'll really only learn much about yourself if you put yourself out there. And I would really strongly recommend that you just, any feeling you have that you want to try art, you want to try sports, you want to try robotics, you should do that, because you'll only be better for it, and you'll only know more about yourself afterwards. Yeah, I think that just on a personal note, I look back at my time at Crescent as beyond formational to who I am now. It's incredibly hard to think that I would have found myself on the path that I am on now without the people I met, without the experiences I had, that I look back and introspect as really formational to me as a human being. And I'm beyond grateful. And that's why I'm always happy to do things like these interviews, because that's such a genuine feeling for me that I hope other people are able to find at Crescent as well. Because I know it's such a special place that can give that to people who are part of the Crescent community.
For more information about this school, you can visit their profile at ourkids.net.